Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining. I'm Wanda Gray, the Education Manager with Crayola. We are so happy that you are joining us today for the webinar, Art, Essential in a Well-Rounded Education. Our presenter today is Sherry Sturman, our Director of Education, and we also have a very special guest speaker with us today, Shauna Kaufman, who is the principal of Arnold Elementary. So we're very excited for today's topic, and we will be getting started in a few short minutes. But first, I'd like to introduce you to the Champion Creatively Alive Children Professional Development Series. This is a series that we have developed that looks at how art builds 21st century skills. This series is comprised of 7 individual workshop modules that include videos and PowerPoint presentations, engaging hands-on exercises, but we wanted to bring this to your particular attention today because building upon today's topic, one of the modules addresses art and advocacy. And so as you look to increase your resources to use advocacy tools within your learning community, please go to Crayola.com/educators to be able to download this very wonderful advocacy module. Also, if you have not joined the community, and I hope that you all have, but if you haven't, membership has its benefits. And so just want to remind you that you'll receive invitations to upcoming webinars. Webinar recordings and resources will be at your disposal, as well as the CE quizzes, and you'll be able to engage in these wonderful online discussions. You can find the link right there at the bottom of your screen to join. Also, for participating in the webinars, you will receive a certificate of completion. So if you have logged in with us live today, you will receive a certificate within actually the next business day to the email address that you use to log in. If you are joining at some point by phone with us, or if you're viewing a recording, you would have to take a quiz prior to receiving your certificate. And you would find the quiz in the EdWeb webinar archives once you join the community. We'd like to bring your attention at this time to this wonderful and dynamic piece of student artwork. And it's always fun when we look at this artwork that relates to the topic of the day to ask, what insights do you see in this student's artwork? So I'm going to challenge you and ask you, please type in the chat box, what is it that you see when you look at this piece? This student's art captures the essence of what art is and why it's so important to a well-rounded education. We can see the innovation, we can see invention and problem solving, new solutions, and really that art is about making thinking visible. The rocket ship also shows how art helps students soar to new, and I always like to say new and infinite heights. This art communicates the 21st century learner's need to be creative and see the world in new and dynamic ways. And so isn't that really what a well-rounded education is all about? So without further ado, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Sherry Sturman, our Director of Education, and Shauna Kaufman to share their insights with us for today.
I love that artwork and hearing you describe those infinite possibilities. So our topic today is art essential to a well-rounded education. I am thrilled to have Shauna Kaufman here with us, and she will be sharing her stories and insights from a principal's perspective. But before we get started, I want to mention the Crayola webinar giveaway. So we used to describe this at the end of the session, but realized that it probably helps you to know about the opportunity right up front. So as we go through this, you can be thinking about what you'd like to communicate in your project. So this session is focused on an art and education advocacy postcard. And what you would do is before you mail yours, we'll go through the session talking about prompts to prepare you for thinking what you want to put on your postcard. And as you complete it, before it goes in the mail, photograph both sides and then post it so that you can share with members of this community. And when you join the community, you'll get instructions on how to post that. It is very easy to win the giveaway. 50 educators who post their advocacy postcards by the deadline of our next webinar, which is October 19th, will receive 24 boxes of these Crayola No Drip paint pens. They're really fun. It's like drawing with a paintbrush. It's really very lovely. So, well, we'd love to see the artwork from everyone, no matter where you live. And we notice we've got folks here from Panama and Colombia and Puerto Rico. So anyone, we'd love to see you electronically post your artwork. We're only able to ship this to the continental United States and Canada because of some shipping rules. So what are we going to be covering here today? First, we're going to be talking about conveying compelling messages, how we're going to talk to others about why art is so important. And as we build that framework about what is really concise and what is really compelling, then Shauna is going to share with us the information about how the impact of art on learning in her community has been shared broadly inside her school and beyond. We're going to also share some insights from research and from the new laws. Many of you are very aware and keeping up with information. The Every Student Succeeds Act has some very exciting news around art being part of well-rounded education. And then you're going to do an exercise on convincing others. So before we get started, we want to do a short poll. Diane, if you could post the poll, we would love to see what people think going into this session. That helps to frame our conversation. So everybody get ready to vote and tell us what you think. So we've got 4 choices here. Please let us know which of the following statements you believe is true. And you can start voting at any time you're ready. So I'm just looking to see, we have 164 people on live right now. Let's wait and give everybody a chance to figure out how to cast their vote, because we only have about 60 folks so far. But what it's looking like is nobody's voting for the bottom one, right? Everybody gets the point that an advocacy message needs to be concise and compelling, that those are both really important elements. So that one's got 0 votes. There are a couple people who indicated they thought that what was true was that research shows that art integration is embraced by art teachers but not principals. And for those few people who marked that, you'll be very excited to know that the research really shows that principals do embrace the importance of art integration. In fact, 9 out of 10 principals believe that art integration increases student engagement and is a key teaching strategy. So very excited that that the research really is contrary to that the principals do believe that. We mentioned a few minutes ago about ESSA. We'll be talking more about it. The new national education law does not ignore the role of art as a well-rounded education. In fact, it explicitly states that art is a part of a well-rounded education. So we're really excited about that. And by far, the majority of you, 92%, indicated that what is true is the research shows that art integration increases both student engagement and achievement. And yes, we are so fortunate that this area that we're so passionate about does increase both engagement and achievement. So I think we'll turn the voting off now with a little bit less than 100 people, but that showed some pretty compelling results on that. And so you are all, oops, I'm just trying to close that. You are all well primed for the conversation we're going to have today, because you got those key points. So when we think about art and education advocacy, we like to think about the 4 C's. So as you know, 21st century skills is all about the big 4 C's, right? Creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration. And so for each of our topics, we like to think of what's the framework, what are the small 4 C's, if you would have it, that are the framework for advocacy. And so the framework is compelling, concise, collaborative, and change. Let's see what that means. We'll go into each of those individually. So when you think about articulating an advocacy message, and the one that we focus on today is art is essential for a well-rounded education. The first C is compelling, about why does this matter to your listener? So we have a lot of compelling evidence that we can draw upon, and in a moment I'll show you a slide of various studies. And so you have to decide what would move your listener, convince your listener. And so think a bit, wrap your mind around that listener's mindset, that decision maker, and identify what would be most compelling for that decision maker. Concise, get to the key point about why art, taking that rather more complex, bigger, compelling message and getting it very crisp and concise. Then collaborative, right? Why do we need to work together with others? Who might you join your voice with to have more influence? So who might be your collaborative partners in that? Oops, something interesting happened to the screen. The slide went away. Diane, you want to help with that? Oops. Okay, great. Thank you. So I hope all the participants can see the slide too. Let us know if anything's wrong. And Diane is like magical in bringing things back and helping you. So collaborative, when we advocate with others, that just strengthens that influence and that voice. And so we challenge you to think about maybe some unlikely partners who you might collaborate with to get this message across. And then the fourth C, and probably the most important, is what is the change you want to see? So think through in your mind what your ask is. All advocacy is really trying to persuade so that you can see a change that's so important and so necessary. So think about how you're going to articulate the change you want to see. Okay, so compelling evidence. We are so fortunate, those of us who are passionate about this, that the role of art and creative experiences in student achievement is well documented. And we have a number of studies here. You can jot down or you can go back to the library where you'll be able to see this webinar recorded to jot down the names of some of these resources. There are several here that are online, available for free. The first two on the top row, Investing in Arts Education, Winning America's Future Through Creative Schools, is the purple guide, and then right next to it, the Turnaround Arts Initiative. Those documents are published by the President's Committee of the Arts and Humanities, and they document the importance of arts education in schools. They are free. You can go to their website. You can download them. They're fantastic reports. Below that, what school leaders can do to increase arts education is you can download it from Arts Education Partnership for free. It's a document published by AEP, Arts Education Partnership, and really good information and tips. Reports are books, and they really do emphasize the compelling evidence around why the arts are so important. One that is one of the most popular sort of seminal pieces of research is in the middle of the bottom row. It is Doing Well and Doing Good by Doing Art by James Catterall. And he did a longitudinal study that followed students and found that those students who were involved in more robust arts education programs were more likely to graduate from high school, graduate from college, be active in their citizenship, in civics activities, and voting and volunteering, really be good citizens. So part of what we're looking at is well-rounded education, and then really looking for that whole lifespan, how we impact students. So really strong, amazing, compelling evidence. And as I mentioned before, a lot of this is about 21st century skills, or the 4 C's, the big 4 C's. And what's exciting is that arts education really builds all 4 C's, the 21st century skills. So when you think about what's compelling, what would move your particular audience? What would convince them? And so think about who you're going to be communicating with, whether they would be more convinced by, say, a research summary or a success story. Some people are very data-driven. All of this is about the evidence-based decision-making. But if you're talking to a school board, they might be, certain school board members might be more moved by hearing about a student in your district and that success story. Other members of your school board might really be looking for, where are the metrics, where's the data? And so what's great is those reports that we just referred to, as well as those that you can pull from your own district, show how test scores increase, students really find their voice and get re-engaged in school. That President's Committee report that I referred to talks about when those schools receive a deep infusion of the arts, absenteeism drops, discipline problems dropped, and they found amazing increases in math, 22.6 increases in math scores and 12.5 increases in reading scores in the students who received a strong, robust infusion of arts education. So you'll find a lot of other sources. We've got some websites right there on the bottom of the screen. Jot down those URLs and look into this further. But we've got some really strong, compelling evidence in our field. The challenge then next is to take that breadth and depth of information and turn it into a really concise, crisp message, right? Because you might be so passionate about this and have so much heart for it that you're going to sit there for the extended period of time and read those reports. The challenge then is, what are you going to do when a school board member has got lots of other things on their mind, or a superintendent's got a lot on their plate, right? And you want to bring this up to their attention in a very crisp and concise way. So that's what we are really referring to when we say, get that compelling evidence, but translate it in a way that others can hear it quickly and make sense of it. It's often helpful to think of writing yourself a headline, right? Pick that one phrase or that headline, just in the same way that an article in the paper might grab your attention from the headline, and figure out what is that key message that you want to communicate. And here are just some candidates, right? So you might want to talk about the impact of the arts on school achievement. You might want to frame it as college and career readiness. A lot of people are focusing on these habits of mind that become life skills, right? We have growth mindset here. Perhaps you're familiar with Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset, and it really is the determining factor that her research found. And people who lead in the field, people who, sort of have all the talent and capability but don't apply it in a way and don't shine to become leaders, and those who really believe that they can transform themselves and their environment, and it's about that growth mindset. So, and we talked about 21st century skills. We know the arts increase student engagement and family engagement. You pick what your headline will be, and then start to shape around that. So this is a great time for Shauna to be sharing with us some of her experience. She's got great stories, and she's really helped to provide this evidence, this compelling evidence to decision makers. So, when we talk in the field of education, people who make important decisions about policies and funding, they will often come back to us and say, what is the evidence base, right? They do evidence-based decision making. And we're fortunate. We have that compelling evidence. So Shauna will talk about how she dips into that compelling evidence and really makes sure that what she's relying on is solid, and talks about how it moves the needle for students, and how she makes that compelling and concise for those decision makers. Shauna, you want to tell us a little bit about your school, and then we'll do your story.
Great. Thank you, Sherry, for inviting me to present with you today. So I'm in Arnold, Maryland, which is right outside of Annapolis, Maryland, near Washington, D.C. And we have a nice, small elementary school, kindergarten through 5th grade. We are definitely an arts integration school. We've been arts integration for numerous years. And we definitely believe in arts integration. And the message for me really today is going beyond just the average or the beginning part of arts integration and taking it forward further, and making sure that I advocate for arts integration so we can continue to remain an arts integration school and become better at what we do every day. So our emphasis at Arnold Elementary really is to develop some critical thinking using those 21st century skills, and making sure that we're using the knowledge of art standards to promote all of these skills: creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, communication. It's an important part of where we're going in education, and arts integration, the research is there that shows that it's definitely worthwhile. And then as a principal in the school every day, I see the evidence, I see the students, I see the work, I see the academic rigor that's there. And how it really opens up the minds of students. So it on my belief, it really addresses both areas, the College of Career Readiness and the 21st century skills. We focus a lot at my school on the growth mindset and perseverance, and arts integration just naturally falls into place. So when I'm trying to develop a message or to try to advocate for the arts, it's really important that I bring in my beliefs. I see it every day. It's what I believe. It's what my teachers believe. We know this works. So I capture on the belief and what I know to be true. And I really kind of look inward and decide, what really do I believe? What are some things that I can grasp onto that are my anchors in creating this message that I need to share? And for me, we really believe in the whole child approach to education, and how arts integration and the whole child approach just makes sense. It's who we are, and that's how it just kind of makes sense. It reaches all different areas. So for our school, using the whole child approach is really the anchor that we use to develop a message of advocacy for arts integration. Whenever I interact with people on a daily basis, professionally or just in passing, and they ask about my school or about what we do there, it's really just natural for me to talk about arts integration. When I have that concise and compelling message I can share right away, well, you know, we take a whole child approach, and arts integration is a wonderful thing that we can do to help all aspects of the child. So it's important that no matter who my audience is, I'm always having that message, and it's easy for me because I've internalized it to really make sure that I'm giving the message that I need to. So these are all these words on the slide right here are everyday educational words that we probably see if we're in education. But it's important for you to discover what is your belief and values, and what is something that you really feel anchors your school or your perspective of arts integration, and to kind of hold on to that when you're developing your message. So you could use some of these words, but feel free to find a keyword that really fits your school and in your perspective of arts integration. And for us, it really at Arnold was the whole child approach. We look at all the different aspects of the child, and it's very easy to sort of creating a message when I'm first compelled and believe in it, and then I just kind of minimize it to, if I only had 1 minute or an elevator ride to explain to someone what my school was about, how would I say it and what would I say? So that kind of is the framework of the beginning of how to create some advocacy.
And actually, Shauna, one of the things that you said is so important in the research that we found, that you as the principal and that school leader let your entire professional learning community know how important arts integration is to you from a pedagogical perspective, and then you show them the results for student achievement. And our research shows that when the principal believes and lets people know, and our research also show the majority, 9 out of 10 principals believe, where the gap is how active they are in telling others how much they believe. And so that's what's so important. What is that expression? Walk the talk, right?
Right.
Because getting that message out is so important. So thank you for adding that into your comments about how you let them know. So the next part of the framework is collaborative. And we urge everyone who's participating in the webinar to think about partners whom you could work with collaboratively to support those arts and education advocacy efforts. So you would probably want to start within your school community, right? Who are some people who are either like-minded or could easily become convincible, that can join you in this effort. They're champions for it. I noticed someone had written into the text box before, you know, what do you do with the naysayers? And I think the answer to that is you start with the champions. And you make sure that your school leaders, you know, as Shauna was just saying before, if your school leader believes in this, make sure your school leader is articulating it, because that does make a difference. And so, you know, there will always be those that are less convinced initially, but they will pick up on the momentum and they will start to feel it. So my first advice is collaborate with partners within your school environment. But then, you know, don't stop there. We have to make sure that our schools go beyond into that broad community and start to spread this message with others in your community. So you can go to your geographic region. You can be going talking to other district people, school board people, joining online communities. So sharing your beliefs and articulating that in a way that you're going to start to find other community organizations. We hear from school principals who get deeply involved in their community and say that when they can start having this conversation with other community leaders and they start to talk about why kids need to be creative, and creativity might mean a little bit messy on the housing project playground, but that's okay. Or, creativity might be a little bit noisy in the religious institution, on a day morning. So that's okay. So when your community leaders understand child development and why kids need to be creative, that just echoes your strong collaborative intent. So Shauna, you have some points on collaborative too.
Sure, absolutely. Exactly what you're saying, Sherry. Sometimes you just have to start in your own neighborhood, even just in the school. In our school, the PTA is a huge supporter of the arts integration, and I think mainly because we have a visiting artist program where the parents or volunteers from the community come in and they do mini art lessons with the students in the classroom. So it's important that they get their hands on it, they get to see it in real life, and then they become natural advocates because they actually get to do it with their own students or their own children, and then they get to go out and share that message with others. And plus, parents always are great networking opportunities for principals and school leaders. And then in growing that beyond the school building, some things that we have done that other schools might do or might think about doing is partnering up with a local art gallery and displaying some of your students' artwork with local artists. So that was a great experience that we had. And we had an art night in the art gallery. So our students who had art displayed on the walls were able to share the stage with local artists, and we're able to talk to them and develop that. That's a great opening opportunity to share with the public and to get a better perspective of the local community. We also have done other things with doing art displays in local libraries and malls, inviting your local legislatures in and doing a special tour of your school and highlighting the arts integration is a great way to get the message across. And legislatures are a huge part of school systems and making sure that they create a priority for our schools. So that would be a great way to advocate for the arts. Another important part would probably also involve presenting to board members or other community groups like the local Rotary Club, going out to one of their meetings, having a teacher present, sharing some stories, also maybe having students are a great way to have them present as well. And each community is so unique and very different. I challenge all of our viewers today to think about their local community and where they would start and where could they go. There's lots of great opportunities, but sometimes you just have to stop and think or talk to people about it, and then you can move forward.
So as we mentioned in the beginning, there is the new law, the Every Student Succeeds Act that passed in December, replaced No Child Left Behind. And there's some very exciting conversation about art in the new law. So the first point is that art is articulated as essential in a well-rounded education, and that's huge, right? So there is a definition of well-rounded education and what makes it up, and it explicitly includes art. So there are quite a few pieces where this comes out in the law, including the fact that the metrics now and accountability are not going to only rely on reading and math scores. Those will always, continue to be important, but they're not the only measures. So the accountability metrics in the new law talk about things like student and family engagement, and we know that art does that. So a couple areas where art really shines through in the new law. And the other part that actually got very explicit and very detailed and was added to the law right before it went to the floor was that there is language in the new law in Title 4 of ESSA that talks about STEAM, right? And it explicitly states that art should be integrated into science, technology, engineering, math, which, many are using the acronym STEM. And what's so exciting now is the law talks about turning STEM into STEAM. Very, very exciting. So my understanding from people who were watching this bill being written in December and how it was moving through Congress was that there was a congresswoman from Oregon who felt very strongly about this, who added an amendment right as it was going to the floor, and this amendment passed both houses. So you'll notice that when you do look at the law, and I don't know how many people actually go through that process of actually reading the document, but it's long, right? It's broad brushstrokes, and then there's this beautiful crisp line that talks about how art should be integrated with science, technology, engineering, and math. A huge opportunity for us to make sure that those creative processes and all of those, right? Each of those disciplines has a huge creative problem-solving approach to it. And when you look at the art creative processes and the new art standards, they have so much in common with the engineering process, right? And there's great parallels to the math standards and the next-gen science standards. It's just all coming together so beautifully. So that's the next point to make here. And the other big factor to know about ESSA is that it does shift more of the decision-making and accountability from the federal to the state level, right? So it's an opportunity and a challenge for us, right? Because it creates a shift in who art advocates need to convince. And so, the challenge is there's 50 states as opposed to one federal government, but the beauty and the opportunity is that you all, wherever you sit, are closer to that decision maker. So when we were talking before about evidence-based decision making, the people who in your state who are going to be deciding how this law gets implemented are people that you can reach, right? You are their constituents. You are within their state. And they want to and need to hear from you. Many of the states are having stakeholder meetings to make sure that they hear the community voice. So the timing is right now that states are deciding how they're going to implement ESSA in their state customized or state specific way. And so it's the perfect opportunity to get that compelling evidence to those evidence-based decision makers. Okay, so one of the last C, and the one that we mentioned before is so very important, is change. The reason that we do this advocacy, speaking to decision makers, is that we can see change going in the direction it needs to go for students. So plan the change you want to see, whether that's in a policy, something about a particular standard, or funding, or procedures, ways that can influence pedagogy and practice. Plan the change you want to see. And imagine what success looks like and then articulate that. And then map out and propose your next steps to reach that goal. So that's really that change process. And we're so fortunate that Shauna has actually impacted so much change. We'd love to hear from her about planning that change that you want to see.
Yeah, I think that so you get to a point and you think, wow, I think we need to do something more, something different. We seem to have this strategy really well, but I think there's more out there. And so that as a school, we decided, what more can we do? And so that's where we look at our school improvement and we say, let's see what else is out there for us. What can we do? And part of that was really looking at inquiry with students and how can we ask these deeper questions? Are we asking the right questions? And with art, it's so natural to integrate asking questions and inquiry with art. It's just a beautiful overlapping that you can do as teachers. So we decided to dive a little bit deeper into that area of asking deeper questions and using the arts integration methods and seeing how we could bring that about. One great way was that we used the grant, one of the grants that Crayola has for us, to structure it for us and to give us the push to move on and to really challenge ourselves to do something a little bit more. And so planning the change really, I guess, has to start with you identifying what you need and then where you want to go. And sometimes that's not easy, but if you connect and communicate and see other schools, it's great to see what other people are doing and then think, how can I make it that way? So as our school went along, we definitely grabbed onto how we can incorporate deeper questioning and thinking into the arts, and then of course bring that into all of our subjects across the board. And I think the push really was the grant to really make sure that we were able to have a plan in place and we had actionable items, and that at the end of the school year, we could look back and say, look, we did do some things that we were wanting to do, and we were able to give that message out to others. This is what we're hoping to do. And then at the end of the day, we were able to say, yes, we actually were able to accomplish some things. And it even gave us more motivation to move further and see what else we could do with arts integration and inquiry. So I guess that's part of our process as our school went along. How can we make the change? We've got to start somewhere, and then we've got to figure out where we want to go and make sure we tell everybody that we want to make things better and improve in this way, and then having people help you along the way and believe in you along the way.
Change that you planned was to deepen, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just such a beautiful change that you are effective arts integration was, and you wanted to deepen. That's beautiful. And that's a beautiful segue to your next slide, which is how you engage students in this wonderful metacognitive process, right? We know that metacognition is thinking about thinking, and you got the students to think about the impact of art on their learning. Tell us about that.
Sure. So part of it, a huge part of inquiry is, like you said, metacognition is really reflecting on your learning. And so one day I had a small group of students, and I really challenged them. And it was during a brainstorming session. And I asked the students, I said, thinking about arts integration, how is art in all of your subjects, because that's what we do at our school, how does that make a difference in your learning here at our school at Arnold Elementary? And I thought it might be too difficult of a question, but students always surprise you. They come out with some amazing answers and thinking and perspectives. I expected maybe some more basic answers, but I really was amazed on how students are able to think about their learning and really articulate and express and communicate that. It was great. Some of the answers, and this was from third, fourth, and fifth grade students. They came up with some great things. They said it's fun and you get to learn. You really get to learn a ton about something, which was more about deeper knowledge. So I felt good that we were doing what we were doing, and the students were reflecting that we could go deeper in our knowledge and inquiry. They talked about expressing how what you made and learned is a great avenue for arts integration. What I really was impressed with is what they said about making connections. With arts integration, they were able to make connections between the world around them and the learning, the curriculum that was in front of them. I was even impressed that one student said it helped her relax. I hadn't even thought about that, but it's so true with arts, that it just, in some ways, the effect is just relaxing. It allows them to use imagination, opens their mind. They get to share with others. What a great message that is for the arts, you know, that you really get to share who you are and what you're learning. And then they also mentioned having choices and making it their own. Making learning it their own is really powerful, I believe. And I was not expecting all of these wonderful, deep thoughts from the students. And this is really good evidence. We're talking about having evidence, you know, in our message. So this is great evidence that's real from the students that I can include when I'm advocating for arts integration and capturing, look at these students. This is really what they're internalizing, and we need to make sure that I share that with people that I'd like to help, you know, support our school and the arts.
Lovely that you talk about how articulate your students are at documenting this and how they provide you that evidence. And that's like a wonderful segue to our next slide, in which your students actually influenced decision makers, right? They brought their evidence and they talked about it. So share with us, because this is such an exciting story.
Yeah, this was a unique opportunity that we had. 6 of my students were able to go to the U.S. Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and they shared about arts integration and what it meant to be a student in an arts integrated school. So before they went, we challenged them to create an art project that represented arts integration in our school, and then to really share what it meant to them to be a student, their personal message about arts integration. And as you can see from the pictures, they did a wonderful job of talking with adults about their life as a student and a learner, and how the arts played an important piece of that. A lot of the connections were made there. And it was wonderful to have the student voice be present, and the opportunity for the kids to share and practice their presenting skills, but also really for educators and educational leaders that make decisions to hear from the students and hear how it is really important and what a great impact it makes on students' lives every day. So I guess, it was a great opportunity, but there are lots of great opportunities that our listeners and educators today can have. It doesn't have to be a formal thing. It could be something as easy as back to school night, or a PTA meeting, even, a board meeting or some other community event where the students get to share their perspective and their message about the arts and how important it is to have arts integration in school. So I guess I challenge our presenters to see how you can empower students to really be your voice and your ambassador for arts integration in your school. It is a powerful way to advocate, and highly encourage it. It's a wonderful opportunity for students, and I was just amazed by their ability to rise to the expectation and to really be amazing students and to share their daily lives with others.
Absolutely. We had the pleasure of hearing them at the event and actually talked to some of their parents who were there. And the parents were saying that this just catapulted their kids' confidence, that this so empowered them, and it was an experience that would stay with their children for a lifetime. So I'd love to see in the text box if the participants could start, texting, where could you bring this kind of opportunity to your students and your community, your leaders, so that your kids are thinking about, right, that process, that metacognitive process of thinking of the impact of art on learning, and then sharing that with decision makers. Part of that story, remember we said earlier in the session that some decision makers are going to be influenced by a success story. Some are going to want, facts and figures and data. Others are going to want a research report. But I have to tell you, there is nothing more compelling. There is nothing that wouldn't capture, the attention, the eyes and the ears of a decision maker than having articulate kids like these that you see photographed here, and we had the good fortune of hearing their wisdom, be convincing on why art is important in a well-rounded curriculum. So, and what Shauna was saying is they work with the kids to make them feel comfortable, in the setting and prepare them for it. But all the thoughts and wisdom came from within the kids. They just needed a bit of guidance in terms of, being prepared for what the experience would look like and feel like. But the richness came from the kids' own perspective. Yeah, and I'm seeing people putting on PTA. Absolutely. Some people invite you had mentioned inviting legislators, and some people invite their mayor in, or take a group of students down to the mayor's office, or have a display at a public kind of forum, and then have kids make their comments as board members or city council members are entering the room, and students are standing by the easels with the artwork explaining it. There's lots of different ways to do this. So that just is the secret sauce, the really special part, when we get to hear it in the kids' own words. So now I'd like us to apply the insights that we've heard from this amazing school where Shauna is the leader, and from her students' perspective. We'd like to apply those insights to convincing others. So as you saw in the beginning, the art project for today's session is to create advocacy postcards. I have a couple examples here just to show you, and in the next few slides we'll show you a couple other examples. And these actually were created by the adults who learned from Shauna's students last week at the Department of Ed. So you can see the impact those kids had on the adults when they were thinking about this. The process for you in making your advocacy postcards is to think about what message will you convey. And here are a few of the postcards that people made at our group setting, really about how arts can foster a community. We know that collaboration is a 21st century skill. We know a collaborative community of adults and the teachers really sets a culture and a climate that's so important, and the children feel it and sense it, and it catapults that whole experience in the school. So love that they were saying, you know, believing in yourself and this ability to leverage the power of the arts to foster a sense of community. And look at this other one, think deeply, make things daily, and you know, hands-on, and it's got the brain, it's got the hands, it's talking about deeper thinking. I got such a kick out of that one. So then what is your focus? We said before concise, and we told you to, you know, think about a headline. Well, we're really urging you to do the same thing here, just frame it a little bit differently. If you want to call it your headline or your focus, be thinking about that key message for your postcard. So student achievement's really important. Here's an example of a postcard that talked about potential, not only of the student potential, but of the educator's potential, and really letting their star shine. Engagement, creative critical thinking. Earlier people were talking about those habits of mind and perseverance, global citizens, growth mindset, self-efficacy. What's going to be your focus? And then who are you going to send your postcard to? And I got such a kick out of this postcard. And we had the fortune of hearing the story when we were all together. This person said, they said I could, I did, and was sending it to herself as a reminder of that power of encouragement, that influence that it had of someone saying, you will be able to do this. Whatever you aspire to do, you will. And so don't discount yourself as being the recipient of your postcard, to hang in a place that reminds you of what you believe in. Other people might decide to send an advocacy postcard to their principal or superintendent or district leaders, or your State Department of Education policymakers. We just talked about how they now have this ESSA law that landed on their lap, and lots of decisions they have to make. How beautiful for them to receive an appreciative thank you postcard that wants to remind them of the importance of art and a well-rounded education. One of the things you'll notice when you send these postcards out is that appreciation for what they've done goes so far, and it oftentimes a public official doesn't get a lot of thanks, and so they will hang a thank you postcard, something that looks as beautiful and inspiring as this, that thanks them and tells them how important it is, could be a keeper for someone on their wall. So think about that. Community leaders. What about students? We actually had some people in our event last week who wrote not only to students in their class, but some of them were writing to their own children. And that too will become a family keepsake. What about the parents in your community? A colleague or another educator influenced you. So think about who's going to receive your postcard. And then in addition to what you're going to draw, what are you going to write? And so we were talking before that maybe an art impact story, a short essay, right? The beauty of a postcard is it forces you to be concise. And I know there's novels out there, and I know there's, big, thick books, but if you want to get the attention of some of those people we just listed on that prior page, an upbeat, appreciative, focused postcard can have a lot of impact. So maybe a short impact story or success narrative, maybe a poem. We're seeing a lot of chat in our chat room about the 6-word stories, and a 6-word story could be fantastic here. You could try a journalist report, give it a sort of a news update, a sense of urgency. You could do a research summary. There's plenty of research we were pointing to before. Highlight some persuasive points. So how are you going to communicate this? What are you going to write? And remember to communicate your intent to in both words and visuals. So you're going to be sketching, drawing, and add written words. And you know, this is just an everyday postcard, right? But it can have a huge impact. So think about how you're going to organize this as you design and write your postcard. You're going to be expressing your advocacy message. As we were saying, think about your focus, who's going to receive this, what you're going to write, what you're going to draw, how it's going to be compelling and concise. On that back side, address it to your recipient. But right before you mail it, be sure to photograph it and post it in this community. And here you see a couple of other examples. Look at that growth mindset. Look at that growing tree and showing about how art really does grow. And then the simplicity of the art sparks the story. Aren't they beautiful? And just the closing number of examples. These are our last examples we'll share, but I think you get the idea here. It's about making your thinking visible. And it's about using your advocacy postcard to share your insights on the impact of art on learning. And aren't these just beautiful? Actually, we did not post here who they were being sent to or what they said, but I have to tell you about the top one. The person in the room sent it to her mother. This is a beautiful story. I saw the back of it. She sent it to her mother saying that art enabled her to overcome so many issues and allows communities to overcome, you know, public broad issues, to think about them and explore them. And she said, she said, in this challenge, Mom, I just thought of you and how you've given and how you encourage my art and how it has given me this power. Isn't that a beautiful message? And then the other one here, you can see that, you know, it's the eggs, it's the potential. Art will provide all of this opportunity, and eggs symbolize that kind of potential, this nest that she drew to be nurtured. So lots of way to approach this project, and we really look forward to seeing what you post before you mail them. So just want to remind you that if this excites you and you'd like to learn more about arts integration, Shauna gave you some great backstory on the importance of arts integration. Visit Crayola.com, where we have 1,500 lesson plans, and we also have videos and programs for you to be able to download and use. And if you really enjoy, I know people enjoy the connection in the chat bar here. It is really special when you can connect with other creativity champions. And so we've established a new program, Crayola.com Champions. It's an online community for arts advocates where you can receive updates about arts-infused education and creativity and download resources to build the creative capacity in your school. You can be sharing your success stories. So we would love for you to join this new community. And as you know, we always wrap up every session asking you to think about your next steps. We found that when people actually jot down a commitment to themselves or answer these questions about what are the next steps, it makes it more likely that they'll carry on and do this after the webinar. So first, think about what ideas really stick. What are you going to use in your school or in your community? Who are you going to collaborate with to articulate these concise, compelling advocacy messages? And then, of course, you're going to be creating your advocacy postcards, and who's going to receive them. So those are 3 simple next steps. So back to our giveaway. Those of you who participated in our webinars before know how really easy and delightful it is. You post your art, you get a gift. It couldn't be any easier. So write your advocacy postcard, photograph it, upload those images, both the front and the back. Would really appreciate that. If you want to address it after you take the picture, that's cool too. If you don't want us to have your mom's address, that's posted on there. That's fine. And you will get instructions for how to upload those when you join the community. And then Kristen is going to send you these cases, 24 boxes of the No Drip paint pens. And as we mentioned before, we are so excited to have such a strong international participation, but this is only available to be shipped to the US and Canada. So I think we're ready for some questions and answers. Are we on the question and answer page? Whoa. Oh, Shauna, there's one for you. I want to toss it right to you. So thinking about the arts integration projects and the deep, big ideas, the project-based learning that's gone on in your school, what's one of your favorite arts-infused projects that you saw in your school?
It's a tough question because I truly see so many great ideas and amazing arts integration projects. One that comes to mind is a favorite of mine that's done every year, but with a different, in the same grade level. It has to do with students using a song, picking a song with the song lyrics that they identify most or tell their personal story or they're able to identify with. And so they take the song lyrics and then they make it personal to them. And they basically rewrite the lyrics so that they are sending a message to everybody about themselves, introducing themselves and how it empowers them. I'm thinking of one student that used Eye of the Tiger from the Rocky movie, and how he really identified with that, and he did a great job rewriting it so it fit him, and he shared his perspective of life for that. So it was a great language arts connection, but also it was a great way for students to think about themselves and to really dig a little bit deeper and make something their own, but also to really do some self-reflection and think about their learning and how it related to them. So that's just one idea of many that I've seen.
I know we put you on the spot because many of your teachers are listening either now or the recorded, so I know we put you on the spot. Sorry about that.
Okay.
It's always hard to pick your favorite and know that there are a dozen other teachers who are saying, pick mine.
Let's go first.
We have another question that would be perfect for you to answer. If you could talk about how you fostered the collaboration between your teachers, particularly the classroom teachers and the art specialists, because we really want that exchange of knowledge from the specialist and that collaboration with classroom teachers.
We all wish we had more time, definitely, for collaboration and planning. It just never can have enough time. But the time that we do have, we have an arts integration specialist that meets with my teachers usually once a month. And we meet in grade levels. So we talk about grade level curriculum and we talk about arts integration strategies and how we're going to plan for that month and how we're going to incorporate some of those strategies in science, social studies, math, language arts, that sort of thing. We also do all kinds of things with our art and our music. We try to set aside time, professional development time, where our teachers learn some new strategies or new arts standards, music, art, drama, dance, and then I allow them time during that professional development time to sit down, do some planning, and do some collaboration. This is what we did when we were investigating inquiry. I had my second grade lead teachers do a professional development for teachers, and I made sure that we allowed time to actually put the strategies in place and make sure we planned, so we made sure that those activities were going to happen in the classroom.
Great, super. I know, Wanda, we didn't give you much time, but you gotta bring it home with the wraps, right?
Okay, here I am. Thank you, Sherry and Shauna, for that wonderful presentation. I'm just going to wrap up really quickly, but just wanted to remind everyone that for joining us today for the broadcast, you will be receiving your certificate of completion within the next business day to the email address that you used to sign up. And if you were on the phone or watch this as a recording, you will have to join the community to take the quiz, and then you too will get the certificate of completion as well. Just to say that, Crayola is very happy to sponsor this webinar series within our community, and we encourage you to continue to join us and tell your friends all about it. Also, we encourage you to please join us for our next webinar. It's on Wednesday, October the 19th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The topic, very engaging topic, yet another one, student-led game making and learning, and this will be presented by Sherry Sturman, and we will have another guest speaker, Jordan Shapiro, and another representative from Crayola will be joining as well, Kristen Walter, our Innovative Teaching and Learning Specialist. So if you join the community, you will be reminded of this event because you will receive an invitation, so please do so, and we hope to see you then. If you definitely enjoyed what you saw today and would like to receive some of these other benefits of being a member, just want to always remind you, share this information with your friends and colleagues, and please join the Champion Creativity, the Power of Art Infused Education community. And that is it. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.